Believe it or not, there is a brand new Paul Thomas Anderson movie in Malaysian cinemas. Now, Bahir, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first Paul Thomas Anderson movie that we've had in Malaysian cinemas? I can't remember if Magnolia was ever released here or even Inherent Vice. I don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure this is the first.
Right? I know
Yeah.
there was some talk about Licorice Pizza after it got all those Oscar nominations, but Universal decided against it because it's not the kind of movie that Malaysians are going to pay money to see. That said, One Battle After Another, his latest movie that's now showing in Malaysian cinemas, might be his most mainstream and accessible film, even more so than something like There Will Be Blood, which probably took on a subject matter that was easily digestible.
Yeah, I think so. It's easy to call One Battle After Another Paul Thomas Anderson's most accessible because I think even with something as, in air quotes, simple as Licorice Pizza, if you watch Licorice Pizza, it doesn't feel all that accessible to like a Malaysian audience this far removed from the foibles of Hollywood and that corner of California, I think.
Exactly. I think Licorice Pizza appeals, or we can relate to Licorice Pizza because we grew up watching the cinema of the era. And I think we have a detached attachment. Even though we're from Malaysia, there is a nostalgia for that time.
There's a recognition for the importance of that time.
Yes, and it was very rooted in a specific era, a specific time, a specific place. Now, One Battle After Another is the second Thomas Pynchon adaptation that Paul Thomas Anderson is doing. The first was Inherent Vice. This one is based off a Pynchon book called Vineland. And I say based because after watching the movie, it feels very much like a sequel, if that makes sense. Like, Vineland is from the 60s to the Reagan era.
Right.
And the story is similar in that it's about what happens to these aging revolutionaries once the battle seems lost. And what happens to these revolutionaries who haven't quite given up their revolutionary ways, but when they're faced against a system that doesn't change. There's a line in this movie when Perfidia Beverly Hills goes, "It's been 16 years and the world is still exactly the same," or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this movie kind of comes from. It's like, it's always one thing or another. The battle never ends. The system continues to be oppressive. And that's essentially the message that PTA is trying to put forward with this film. After watching this movie, Bahé, I realized, and I think I'm going to have to do a little more research because maybe there might be more indie movies, but there are very few revolutionary films out of Hollywood. There are very few American revolutionary films. Like, you can think of Latin American revolutionary films and African revolutionary filmmaking where they talk about independent struggles, etc., etc. And I don't mean stuff about the American Revolutionary War, not that, but modern revolutionary films. Like, Network comes the closest to something like One Battle After Another, where it's taking on the modern forces of the media and capitalism and politics and all of that stuff. But on the whole, there aren't enough American revolutionary films. Like, maybe Judas and the Black Messiah, maybe Fight Club to a certain extent, like movies with this kind of a message.
I think what you're going after is the white perspective for a revolutionary film. It feels like there has to be more, like especially in the Black American cinema.
So, yes, I mean, so if you think about the Melvin Van Peebles movies, for sure,
Yeah,
like, he had some really good films, but at the same time, black cinema isn't allowed to thrive in the same way in Hollywood, right? And so I think that may be a reason why we see so few of them.
what was the one about Black Klansman? That feels like a revolutionary film made for the white audience.
But even all of the movies that we've named, whether it's Judas and the Black Messiah or Black Klansman, Apocalypse Now, Born on the 4th of July, all of the Vietnam stuff as well, it's always in retrospect. And I think why Americans are so excited about One Battle After Another is that it speaks to the contemporary. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of what we see in Hollywood with regards to the ongoing fight.
Even Civil War from a couple years ago kind of sidesteps it because it's a make-believe future, which is almost like looking back, right? So it never is of the now. It is what could happen in the future. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
It's the same with The Long Walk. Brilliant movie,
Yeah.
but presupposes a post-apocalyptic America where a war has ravaged the country.
Yeah, you have to draw the parallels. You have to see the meaning behind everything. Whereas here, it's in your face.
And in that sense, I think what Paul Thomas Anderson has done is quite remarkable in that a major studio release in 2025 is taking on these sorts of subject matters in a very clever, funny, action-packed kind of way, because I think his approach to it isn't preachy. And his approach to it is actually rooted in really fascinating characters. Like a lot of the quirky, fun, crazy characters that we see on screen are very engaging, and I felt a nice way in to the revolutionary story.
Yeah, I still don't like it.
Yeah, we've got two differing opinions on this movie. Like, I absolutely love this movie,
Yeah.
but a caveat, Bahir.
Yeah.
You don't like Paul Thomas Anderson, period, right? You're not like a fan of his movies.
I'm not a fan of his movies. I put Paul Thomas Anderson as like just another working American director. Like a new PTA film doesn't excite me. It's just oh, okay, cool. He's got another movie coming out. I accept, I acknowledge his abilities as a director, as a storyteller. I just find that his stories don't appeal to me. I'm not saying he's a bad director. I'm just saying he's not for me. So I think even One Battle After Another, I thought was a fine film. It's not stand out, amazing. This is not the film I would be putting on my Oscar ballot.
You might be the only one, but
I might be the only one.
I'm on the same page with you with regards to I don't think it's the best movie of the year.
Yes.
And I think Americans are getting very excited about this movie because it speaks to contemporary issues. I think the conversation in America right now is so oppressive. The environment is so oppressive that this movie feels like catharsis.
Yeah.
This movie feels like they're being seen and that all of the arguments are being heard. And I think that's why they're very excited about One Battle After Another, because they're seeing it in a mainstream platform across the country with huge actors giving voice to this thing, right?
Sure, yeah.
I enjoyed it as a film because I enjoyed Paul Thomas Anderson's prowess as a filmmaker. Like, I was along for the ride. For me, One Battle After Another has one of the best car chase scenes ever put on screen. The final 10 minutes has this car chase scene in a place I've never seen before on screen. Like, the location and the way it was shot was incredibly tense and thrilling, and I appreciated the movie for all of those moments.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I thought it was beautifully crafted and well written with great characters and a compelling message, right? I think the idea of being raised in this revolutionary family, this character played by Chase Infinity, the daughter of Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Perfidia Beverly Hills, and what it means to be raised as the child of a revolutionary. Do you continue that battle? What is your history? What if your mother, who was the revolutionary of revolutionaries, turns out to be a rat? There are all of these things that kind of plays into the metaphor and the debate and the conflict about how you're supposed to feel about these people. And I think all of that's super interesting. And I was very, very invested.
I agree with you with all of those points as a thought exercise. As a film, all of those things I agree with. I just did not enjoy my time in the cinema. I think the film itself is, to not be too big about it, feels very oppressive to an audience. Not in a bad way, but just it makes you uncomfortable. So it wasn't the time out entertainment at the cinema that I was hoping it was going to be. And I think that it's ripped from the headlines version of America for me was a problem because a lot of that stuff I feel like I can watch on BBC or on CNN, like or on Fox News. It feels almost too close to home. So it didn't work for me in that sense. I completely agree with you. I think a lot of what was done was very, very good. There were a lot of beautiful shots. There's a sequence in the middle of the film where they're running over rooftops, and that was beautifully shot, I thought. The characters are fun in a weirdly unfun film. Leonardo DiCaprio's sort of slight bumbling white guy fighting in this revolutionary war felt amusing. I thought Benicio del Toro's Carlos was a real interesting play on what a revolutionary can be, should be, would look like. As pieces, I think they're interesting, but I think the film wasn't for me. I think that's about the best way I can put it.
For me, it's a question of timing. Even if this movie does well at the Oscars, I think it'll be purely based on where everyone's mind is at the moment.
Yeah.
So the radical group in the movie, the French 75, seemed to be based around a real radical group called the Weather Underground. I don't know if you remember these guys. They were from the 1950s, I think, or 1960s. And they used to commit acts of political violence, but also the Weather Underground were the worst possible radical group in the sense that they were complete failures at what they were trying to do. And so they were almost a joke as a radical group committing political violence. The French 75 seem to do a lot better in this film, but they too get disrupted by the system. And when the story picks up in the present day, that's where the question of where do we go from here? What do we do now? Is this oppressive system still worth fighting, or is it a lost battle, right? And I think all of these things are kind of addressed in this movie or raised in this movie, but I felt that even the rip from the headlines stuff wasn't addressed in a preachy way. I felt like all of it was still grounded in interesting characters and an interesting story involving Leonardo DiCaprio and the search for his missing daughter. So I think that's what carried me through because it didn't feel preachy. And the fact that this movie is full of some truly fantastic performances. At a stretch, Leonardo DiCaprio might get a nomination, but the real hero or the real star of this film is Sean Penn.
Yeah, I think Sean Penn will definitely get a nomination. It will probably come really close. I think my issue with Leonardo DiCaprio's performance is that it didn't feel particularly challenging for him, for an actor of his caliber. It feels pretty much run of the mill, and I kind of wish he had done something different with it.
But it feels like that was his character in this whole movie, right? In that he was just along for the ride. His character didn't necessarily have as much agency as any of the other characters, and he was kind of dragged along.
Yeah.
For everything that was happening in this film. But for me, it was Sean Penn, and the breakout was Chase Infinity, who plays his daughter, who is absolutely superb because there is everything. There is emotion, there is a physicality to her performance. It's all incredibly believable, and I think all of that works. Like, I believe that she is the daughter of a revolutionary.
I feel like she needs to be in it more if she was going to be nominated for something.
I think supporting can.
You think so?
I think supporting can. I mean, people have won for 12 minutes of screen time, so I think supporting can. Like, she does more in this than Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love, and Judi Dench won for that one. I think performances are great, and the movie for me is truly a product of its time.
Yeah.
For me, what stands out, however, is America's reaction versus our reaction. And I was trying to think about why the Americans and people who saw it at Venice were so hyped. And I think our reaction to this movie feels a little tepid because this is how we've always seen America. It's not new to us. So when we see the sequences involving ICE, the white supremacists, the racists, all of that feels like our description of America from the outside looking in.
Even Sean Penn's character, we don't find that unbelievable at all. That, I don't know if he's a crooked general or the slightly confused whatever you want to, however you want to describe his character. But as a person looking into that hellscape at the moment, that's kind of what we all see their military generals as, right? And I think that's why I think the rest of the world won't really consider this very much, I think.
I don't think the rest of the world will be as excited or surprised by what is depicted in this film.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, the conversation around America has to do with America, the democracy. So even in movies that challenge that democracy and question that democracy, there is an idea that the system will overcome, or that the system is so solid and stable and secure that it will not give way to humans with corrupt or dictatorial tendencies.
Yeah.
We're now witnessing in real time how that isn't true. And this movie kind of highlights that factor. How people can work in the shadows, and not even in the shadows, how people can work openly to confront that system and tear down that system. But of course, the America we've seen for the longest time, with the way they've actually treated their immigrants, with the racism, with the white supremacy, with the election of Donald Trump, with everything that's been happening, not just over the last 4 years, but I would say over decades, this doesn't feel particularly new to us.
Even if you're not well versed in American politics or even American culture, the idea of a potentially corrupt American government is not surprising to you outside the country. You know, I think you will not be looked at as a kook or a revolutionary or someone who wants to tear down the government. You know, looking in, nobody is saying that that is the beacon of democracy and hope that they want to portray outwards. So this film doesn't change any opinions for anybody.
If it does one thing, I think it might be interesting to see how this movie kind of influences mainstream conversation in America.
Do you think it will? I don't think it will. I think it will be forgotten because we thought conversations would be had post Civil War. We thought conversations would be had post Zone of Interest. But I think Americans just went, that was a great movie, and just moved on with their lives and not pay taxes.
I think they're too entrenched in it, right?
I'm seeing a few American friends of mine going, oh my God, this film is great. It is important, blah, blah, blah. I can pretty much look up people say the same after Civil War or after Zone of Interest. In a lot of ways, I think The Long Walk is more important than this. Because for me, The Long Walk shows the quiet dangers of what America can turn out to be. This is that like big stuff, right? This is the small time general run rampant against a revolutionary force who's trying to push back the system. Whereas something like The Long Walk was just, if we keep quiet, this is what can happen.
One Battle After Another is now showing in Malaysian cinemas. Check it out and let us know what you think. Are you with Bahir on this one? Are you with me on this one? Did you like it? Did you not like it? You know how to reach out. We're on Instagram on GogglerMY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.